The Zentar Alliance, a powerful and cruel empire, had already taken control of thousands of star systems. No planet had ever resisted them and survived. Now their next target was Terra, a small, quiet planet on the edge of the galaxy. Inside, the Alliance's main war chamber, the Supreme Leader Xerox stood before his top generals. "They are weak, divided, and primitive," he said. "Their presence is a risk to our order." Admiral Rylus stepped forward. "Then we give them one chance, surrender or we destroy them." A message was sent across the stars. "People of Terra, the Zentar Alliance offers you one choice. Submit or be erased. There will be no second chance." They waited. Minutes passed, then hours. A whole day went by. Still no reply. Laughter filled the war room. "They are too scared to respond," one general joked. "Then let's end this quickly," Xerox said. "Prepare the invasion fleet." The Zentar Alliance was a cruel empire, feared across the stars. It had taken over thousands of planets. No race had ever fought them and lived. Now their eyes were set on a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. Its name was Terra. In the Alliance's grand war chamber, Supreme Leader Xerox stood before his generals. "We've watched this species long enough," he said coldly. "They are weak, broken, and old-fashioned. They threaten our order." A murmur moved through the room. Admiral Rylus stepped forward. "Then it's decided. We send a warning. If they don't surrender, we remove them." A message was sent across the galaxy. "People of Terra, you have one chance. Surrender or be destroyed. This is your only warning." They waited. Minutes passed, then hours, then an entire day. No answer. The war room filled with laughter. "They are too scared," one general said. "Maybe they've already given up," another added. Xerox smiled. "Then prepare the invasion fleet. Let's finish this." The Zentar war machine came to life. Thousands of ships, from giant battleships to fast attack cruisers, left for the Solari system where Terra was located. This fleet was called the Iron Flame. It had destroyed entire civilizations before. From his command ship, Zentar's, Admiral Rylus watched the fleet move closer to Terra. "No defense signals. No planetary shields, no ships coming to fight," he said. "Just as we thought, they're not ready." The officers on the bridge smiled. Terra would fall in hours. But just as they passed the red planet Varnus, Mars, a message came through. One sentence appeared on every screen. "You wanted war. Now prepare for what comes next." The room went silent. Admiral Rylus felt a strange feeling. Doubt. "Why send a message now?" someone whispered. "What consequences are they talking about?" another asked. Rylus clenched his fists. "It doesn't matter. Whatever trick they're planning, we will crush it." But a thought stuck in his mind. What if Terra wasn't as weak as they believed? The fleet called the Iron Flame entered Terra's solar system without trouble. They expected fear, cries for mercy, or rushed defenses. But there was nothing, no response, just silence. On board Zentar's hand, officers scanned the planet. Still no shields, no defense systems, one reported. "Their technology is far behind ours," another laughed. "They're bluffing." Admiral Rylus didn't laugh. He looked at the star map. His fleet had won dozens of battles, but something felt wrong. "This is too easy," he said quietly. His second-in-command, Captain Mail, smiled. "With all respect, sir, why worry? They can't even travel faster than light." "Then explain this," Rylus replied. "Why did they wait so long to answer? Why haven't they moved at all?" Mail had no answer. As the fleet moved closer to Terra, scout ships flew ahead to scan the planet. Reports came quickly. No defenses, no army movements, no evacuations. Confusion spread. "They aren't even trying to protect themselves," one officer said. "Maybe they've already accepted defeat," another added. But Rylus's instincts screamed, "Something is wrong." "Bring up their war history," he ordered. Soon, images appeared. World wars, nuclear destruction, endless conflict, surprise, attacks. The people of Terra weren't peaceful. They weren't weak. They were something worse. Survivors. Rylus stood up. We won't make the same mistakes as before. Split the fleet. Half will surround the planet. The rest stay back. We'll attack from orbit first. Just as the ships moved into position, every screen across the fleet flickered. A cold, clear voice spoke. We warned you. The room froze. Then, something happened that no one could explain. Admiral Rylus froze as he stared at the screens. The voice had come from Terra, directly into their secure systems. How is that possible? He whispered. No outside signal was detected. Some officers laughed it off. It's just human fear tactics. But others didn't. They felt something deep inside. Fear. Suddenly a voice called out, Sir, the stars are moving. Rylus turned to the view screen, expecting panic on Terra, but instead he saw something strange. The stars above the planet were shifting, but they weren't stars. They were ships. Huge dark warships, once hidden, now revealed themselves in space. First, hundreds, then thousands. A fleet larger than anything in known history. Rylus stepped back, pale. Impossible. We scanned everything. How did we miss them? Chaos broke out on the bridge. They're surrounding us, shouted an officer. New contacts. Every direction. The human fleet wasn't just near Terra, and it had trapped the Zentaur fleet. Captain Mile, no longer smiling, asked, Orders, Admiral? Rylus took a deep breath. All ships form defense lines. Get ready for first contact. He told himself, they're just humans. We're still stronger. We can win. But then, something worse happened. Without any warning, Terra's hidden. Fleet opened fire, but these weren't normal weapons. The blast moved faster than light. One moment, a Zentaur warship stood whole. The next, it was gone. No explosion. Just silence. And then pieces. Dozens more followed. No warning. No energy readings. Just deadly strikes. They're not using plasma or energy beams. One officer yelled. Our shields do nothing, another shouted in panic. Admiral Rylus gripped the edge of his seat. How are they hitting us? From where? No one had answers. This wasn't a battle. It was a trap. Every move had been planned. The greatest fleet in the galaxy was being destroyed in minutes. Then, a terrifying thought hit Rylus. They knew we were coming. Long before we did. On every screen, the same message appeared again. You wanted war. Now witness extinction. And then, the human fleet vanished. Vanished into nothing. Where did they go? Someone gasped. Scanners show nothing. They've just disappeared. Panic hit the fleet, officers shouted. Commands failed. Then a quiet voice on the bridge spoke. They haven't disappeared. They're inside our ships. Rylus turned pale. The real horror was just beginning. On board dozens of Zentaur warships, alarms blared. Out of nowhere, human strike teams appeared inside the ships, not through pods or teleporters. They just walked in. Dressed in heavy armor, they moved like ghosts, silent, precise, deadly. Screams echoed through the halls. Officers were caught off guard. Crews were overwhelmed in seconds. On the bridge of Zentaur's hand, the lights flickered. Then the door slid open. Admiral Rylus turned, heart frozen. One human soldier stepped forward. Calm, helmeted, holding a strange weapon. His voice was steady. Your war is over. Rylus reached for his sidearm. The soldier raised one finger. A small blue spark flashed. Then, boom! The entire flagship exploded. The remains of Zentaur's hand drifted in space, a shattered shell, surrounded by burning wreckage. The once invincible fleet had become a graveyard. Admiral Rylus was gone. His command was no more, but it still wasn't over. Across the remaining Zentaur ships, chaos spread like wildfire. We've lost the flagship, one officer shouted. We have no orders, yelled another. Panic grew. Officers tried to regroup. Crews scrambled to form defenses. But it didn't matter, Because the humans were still there. They weren't fighting a war. They were hunting. And then, without warning, the hidden fleet reappeared. But this time, right in the heart of the Zhentar formation, not far away, too close. Massive human dreadnoughts materialized just kilometers from the main command ships. Their weapons were already charged. Before anyone could react, the bombardment began. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Zhentar shields failed instantly. Their weapons couldn't find a target. Even their emergency signals went nowhere. It was like Terra had rewritten the rules of war. On board one of the last surviving ships, the Gore, Captain Drek shouted, "Fire everything! Hit them now!" His crew obeyed, unleashing a full blast of plasma and antimatter missiles. The weapons flew straight toward the nearest human dreadnought, but they passed right through it. "It's an illusion," one officer whispered. Before they could react, the real dreadnought appeared behind them. One shot. The Gore was torn in half. Far from the battlefield, the Galactic Council had been watching everything through live transmissions. Dozens of alien leaders, ambassadors, generals, rulers, stood frozen. What started as a show of Zhentar power had become a slaughter. This can't be real," one ambassador whispered. "We knew humans were strange," said another. "But this..." Some had laughed at Terra's warning. Some had even supported the invasion. Now they understood. Terra was never a weak, simple planet. Terra had been waiting, and now it was proving why no empire should have ever attacked it. Back in the battlefield, as the last Zhentar ships were destroyed, one final message echoed through. The remains of their fleet, a human voice, a calm and firm. "You wanted war. You chose your fate. Now, there is no turning back." Across the galaxy, leaders trembled, because deep down they knew one thing. The Zhentar Alliance was only the beginning. The Zhentar Alliance was gone, not defeated, erased. Their warships were silent wrecks drifting in space. Their powerful empire crushed without a single battle reaching their homeworld. And the worst part? Terra never even sent an army. High Warlord Kalor, leader of the powerful Vera Syndicate, stood frozen. He watched from his palace as human warships hovered over his capital. Dark, silent and still, but terrifying. His cities burned. His people panicked. "How did they get through all our defenses?" he whispered. The Syndicate had planned for everything. Surprise attacks, invasions, orbital strikes. But not this. Because the humans had already won. Before even arriving. Then, his communicator buzzed. A human voice spoke clearly. "Your war is over. No anger. No threat. Just a fact." Kalor looked out the window and saw his own fleet. Floating. Powerless. Engines dead. Crews not responding. Somehow Terra had taken control of the entire Syndicate. Their systems, weapons, even their economy. And they had never fired a single shot. Kalor clenched his fists. He had ruled over 100 worlds, crushed rebellions, destroyed civilizations. But this wasn't war. This was erasure, and the humans were simply waiting, not for surrender, but for him to understand he did. And Kalor opened a channel to the Galactic Council. The Vera Syndicate surrenders. Gasps echoed through the Galactic Council chamber. The Vera Syndicate, once feared across the galaxy, had fully surrendered. This was the same empire that once enslaved entire species, laughed at Terra's warnings and ruled without fear. Now they were on their knees, and no one knew how the humans had done it. Terra had no space colonies, no massive fleet stationed across the stars, no military bases outside their system. Yet, somehow they had brought one of the galaxy's strongest powers to its knees. The realization spread like fire. If Terra could destroy the Syndicate so easily, who could stop them? Other empires suddenly hesitated. The Zurak Dominion, the first to call Terra a threat, quickly recalled their fleets. The arrogant Kellian Federation sent diplomats to start peace talks. For the first time ever, the galaxy didn't see humans as prey, but as a force beyond understanding. And then Terra sent one last message. We do not seek war, but if you bring it to us, you will not survive it. After that, Terra went silent again. But everyone knew. Everything had changed. Once the stars echoed with laughter, alien empires mocking Terra, calling humans primitive. But now, the Vera Syndicate was broken. The Zurak Dominion had retreated. The Kellian Federation begged for peace. No one dared to challenge Terra again. In the ruins of his fallen palace, Warlord Kalor stood in silence. Just days ago, he commanded one of the strongest fleets in the galaxy. Now his capital city burned. His fleet was gone. His people whispered in fear, but not fear of weapons, fear of Terra's silence. No soldiers had landed. No battles were fought on the ground. Yet Terra had already won, and Kalor still didn't understand how. Then a final message came through, a simple video feed from Earth. Not a general, not a leader, just a calm man in a dark suit. He smiled gently. Your empire ended the moment you declared war on us. Kalor growled. You didn't even fight. What trick is this? The man tilted his head. Trickery? No, just strategy. The screen changed. It showed syndicate ships, cities, factories. Everything looked normal, but something was wrong. Every system, every building, every part of the syndicate's power was already under Terra's control. The human voice continued. The war was never on the battlefield. Warlord Kalor's hands trembled. He finally understood. Terra never planned for a normal war. They didn't need ships or soldiers. Instead, they had already hacked syndicate systems, disabled their fleets, collapsed their economy. All before the first shot was ever fired. Terra had already won, before the war began. You thought we were weak because we didn't strike first, the man said. But war isn't about fighting. It's about control. And we controlled you. From the moment you noticed us, the screen went black, and Kalor, once the ruler of 100 worlds, stood in silence, defeated without a single invasion. The Galactic Council met in panic. For the first time in history, the chamber was silent. The most powerful warlords, emperors, and diplomats sat frozen, afraid. If Terra had destroyed the mighty Vera Syndicate without even using a fleet, then who would be next? After a long silence, the High Chancellor finally spoke. Terra must never be challenged again. It wasn't a vote. It was a decision made from pure, undeniable fear, and just when they thought it was over, Terra sent one last message. No threats, no demands, just a warning. We do not seek war, but if it comes to us, you will not survive it. And with that, Terra went silent once more. But everyone understood. They were watching, listening, waiting. Across the galaxy, fear replaced arrogance. No empire dared to move against Terra. No fleet crossed their borders. No leader spoke of war. Because now, everyone knew Terra was not weak. They were patient, they were unstoppable, and they had already won. The great powers of the stars, once proud and fearless, now whispered about Terra in fear. They told stories of a small planet that had crushed the strongest fleets, sabotaged entire empires, and done it all without firing first. They spoke of how humans had turned silence, strategy, and patience into the most dangerous weapons in the universe. But more than anything, they feared what else Terra might be hiding. And then, from deep space, a final message echoed across the stars, from a small Earth probe drifting silently near a dead alien fleet. Do not test us again. Then, nothing. The galaxy had changed. Terra never asked for tribute, never demanded control. They didn't need to. They just waited, watched, listened, prepared, and now every empire understood one terrifying truth. The next time someone threatened Terra, there would be no warning, only destruction. The stars, once full of pride and power, now felt cold and quiet. The mighty syndicate had been erased. The Dominion had fallen. The Federation had surrendered and no one dared rise again. Then one last message, a broadcast heard by all. You wanted war. Now, you understand the consequences. Silence followed, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that warns of something waiting, something watching, and every leader, every commander, every empire across the stars knew Terra was still there, and they were in control.